Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. Let's start off talking about a big fight this weekend. Artur Beterbiev, the monster, faces Marcus Browne. It's a terrific fight, really. It's for the WBC light heavyweight title and the IBF light heavyweight title. A lot of people seem to think that Beterbiev is unbeatable. Okay, 16 fights, 16 wins, 16 knockouts. Okay, he looks like a monster in the ring, and he really puts it on opponents, and his record suggests he is too. So I can understand how this air of invincibility has come about with regards to Beterbiev, but he does make some errors. There are some limitations there, and Marcus Browne is a terrific boxer. He is 24-1, and of course the one fight that he lost was that very controversial fight where he lost via technical decision, where there was a head collision with Jean Pascal. At the point of the fight, I actually had it a draw. I had him winning all the rounds except for the two that he actually went down. And one of them he went down twice, and another one he went down once. And Pascal got the decision. There are things we can learn from that, looking at that fight. There are also things we can learn looking at the Shawnee Monahan fight. And we'll also talk a little bit about Beterbiev, what he does well, where those limitations are that perhaps Marcus Browne will be hoping to exploit, and then we'll give a little prediction as to how I believe the fight will go. With regards to Marcus Browne, he is very tall, very rangy. He has a very, very good jab, to the point he's a southpaw, but the jab and the hook off of the jab, or even lead hook, that right hook, is a very effective weapon in keeping the opponent offset. He can also bust the guy up with it. It really is a very good weapon. The way he has his feet, though, he's got a stance where he's quite side on. So his lead leg and his back leg aren't square on at all, really. They really are almost one behind the other. Now, what that tends to do is create a smaller target for the opponent to aim for, right? Because he's a very tall and rangy guy, he hides the body by doing that, particularly because by turning more towards the side or say turning inwards, so away from his lead hand, he can often show the back, so he can cover himself from a hook too. So he's protecting himself by making himself a smaller target. And if you try to close the range on him quickly, his foot speed is very, very good. He's excellent at taking these little short shifts backwards to maintain range. And because he is so effective with the jab and with that hook, he can beat you up at range. You then step in, he'll quickly step out, and he's always able to keep it long. The negative of having a stance in that manner, however, is that when you want to bring the backhand into play, it falls short unless you overly rotate or bring that back foot forward, or bring the front foot forward so that your foot positioning is in the pocket of the opponent, right? In other words, for you to land it, you've got to come into the danger zone of the other opponent. Now, he's very good at rolling and coming back with the uppercut through the middle if he is going to throw the backhand, and he'll throw that to the body very, very well. When he's going to throw a power shot down the pipe, however, one of the things he'll often do is rotate that foot a little bit too much and almost fall in over that lead foot. And that's when he gets stuck in the pocket. And that's when Jean Pascal, by punching with him, was able to have the success that he had. When he dropped him on those three occasions, the trouble that Marcus Browne got into was him essentially committing to that power shot. When he's boxing behind that jab, Pascal was getting nowhere near him. He's also got a really good check right hook. So what Marcus Browne's going to want to do here against Beterbiev is keep him at bay and dictate with that lead hand, whether it's long jabs or whether it's right hooks, check right hooks. He's not going to want to be in a situation where he's throwing the power hand too often. Now, he has got the sort of lead hand that can bust an opponent up, so he can still win rounds essentially with one hand. We're not talking about a pitter-patter jab here, whereby if he's not bringing the power shot into play, a lot of people are going to be saying, what is he actually doing? That's not who Marcus Browne is. The problem that he has is that Beterbiev is so heavy-handed. And the thing is with Beterbiev, he doesn't put much of a load into his shots. This isn't a guy who's looking to take your head off. The majority of his punches are actually placed. And so as a result, he doesn't really look like he's got that one-punch knockout power. This is not a Deontay Wilder who hits a guy and their head snaps and they're all over the place. They look like they've just had whiplash and then they collapse like a sack of potatoes. He's placing shots. And by placing those shots, he's able to wear you down. He lands to the body an awful lot. He then gets close and gets very physical. So what he wants to do is punch with an opponent if an opponent's going to come and do that. The other thing he likes to do as well is not apply incessant pressure in terms of I'm going to put my foot on the gas and chase the guy around. He will get after a guy, but you'll also see him at times get on the back foot and lure a guy in. Now, against a master boxer like Gvozdyk, you saw examples of this. There were moments where he was on the back foot. Gvozdyk was landing combinations. He was forcing himself into areas, applying foot pressure, getting himself into areas where Gvozdyk feels like he needs to work. And then he would drop a shot or two, potentially to Gvozdyk's 3 or 4. And Gvozdyk was winning a lot of those earlier rounds. I know Andre Ward had him 3-1 down after 4 rounds. I definitely did not see it that way. But what Ward was right about when he was commentating about this is that the body language of the two fighters betrayed how they were feeling in the ring. It's one thing to be racking up rounds. It's another in terms of what you're doing in terms of damage. Gvozdyk was working hard and Beterbiev looked confident. Now, Beterbiev as a boxer has some limitations. You know, there are these big power punchers that are often portrayed as being these big power punchers, and that is the weapon of that is put on a pedestal. Think Gennady Golovkin, think Sergey Kovalev, think Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is a very good boxer, and he's often talked about as though he's just this heavy-handed guy, right? And you'll often hear guys talk about, the boxing ability of Canelo versus the punching power of Golovkin. Who's going to come through? That's rubbish. Golovkin's a superb boxer, one of the best jabs in the business. His balance, his footwork, his distance control. In terms of his jab, it's not just thudding and destructive, but it's accurate too. So often you see these types of guys. Kovalev, when Kovalev was fighting Andre Ward in both fights, at range, it was Kovalev that was dominant. Andre Ward was having his success on the inside. At range, when it was a boxing match, Kovalev was the one outboxing Andre Ward. And yet Kovalev, the crusher, is described as a big power puncher, and can he overcome the boxer is how it would often be portrayed. Beterbiev doesn't fall into that category, in my opinion. He does make errors. If you were to get Beterbiev in a boxing ring with massive headgear on and big sparring gloves, I don't think he'd be as effective. This isn't a guy who is a supreme technical boxer. He's not as good of a boxer as Kovalev. He's not as good as a boxer as Gvozdyk. But let's consider what happened. When he fought Kovalev in the amateurs, he beat him and he dropped him twice. He stopped Gvozdyk in the second round in the amateurs. And then in the pro fight, although it was a terrific fight for as long as it lasted, he wore him down and he stopped him late. What was it, the 10th round, I think? Or the 11th? I think it was the 10th round. The point is, despite certain limitations, he's so heavy-handed, he's so patient, he's so accurate with the way he places his shots, and he's so incessant with that pressure without going through the gears. He's almost monotonous in the gears too. But by being monotonous, he's always ensuring he's turning over the knuckles. The quality rather than the quantity of the punches is what counts for Beterbiev. One of the things that a lot of Russian trainers, particularly the old Soviet trainers, will teach is how to throw a punch by actually bending your wrist slightly forward. Now, personally, this is not something that I would ever teach anybody to do. It's not something that I would agree with philosophically, because it increases your chances of a wrist injury. When he throws the punch, they will often slightly dip the wrist. I'm just trying to show you here at the side. And it looks like if you're caught at a wrong place, the wrist could come down. But he does an awful lot of work in strengthening the wrist. You'll see he does push-ups with his fingertips, push-ups on the back of his palms and stuff like that. A lot of it is about strengthening the wrist. And the reason they tilt it downwards is because when he lands, he's literally wanting, I'm just trying to use a darker background, to tilt forward so that the knuckle is what lands, the actual knuckle. And obviously he wears puncher's gloves. So what you feel through the glove, you're going to feel those knuckles. He's looking to cause maximum damage, whether it's superficial or deeper, really punching through the target with his shots. He's not looking to win a fight on points. He's looking to destroy. And so one of the things he'll tend to do is at times he's got a thudding jab and he doesn't use it particularly often. He should be using it a lot more often, to be honest with you. But one of the things he'll do against the southpaw, which you saw in his last fight against Adam Danish, who he stopped in the 11th, I believe it was, he slips inside. Rather than get his foot on the outside of the southpaw's lead leg, which is what you are typically asked to do, what you really want to do, he doesn't always do that. Often he'll slip inside, knowing that he'll eat a backhand. Instead of him being then put off by that, he'll throw punches with the opponent. He'll slip inside and throw a jab. He will trust his jab, and he's willing to eat a power shot to get his jab off. He's a guy who believes in his power and his physical strength so much, he wants to put you in a position where he's landing on you, forcing you to work, and if you really want to put your foot on the gas and land on him, he trusts himself enough to be able to then let go of his own shots on you. He's very, very good at targeting the body with straight shots too. You don't really see him get inside and slip a shot and land an uppercut or a shovel hook to the ribs or anything like that. If he's up close, you'll see that variety. If he's hurt you and he's backed you up onto the ropes, you'll see that variety. He'll look for the uppercut and look to work off of that. But generally speaking, it's a straight right hand to the solar plexus. Everything is about slowly breaking you down. It really is like the metaphorical approach of chopping down a tree. Every single stroke of the axe is designed to wear you down, rather than him looking to load up and take your head off with one shot. Now, Marcus Browne, in my opinion, will therefore dominate the early exchanges. You're going to see him come out, landing the jab, rotating, getting Beterbiev turning. And there's going to be some scary moments, I believe, for Beterbiev fans. They're going to be looking at this thinking, he's not getting close to Marcus Browne right now. Marcus Browne's putting on a clinic. But as the fight wears on, Beterbiev, although he stays quite monotonous with his hand speed, he starts to increase the foot pressure. He starts to get in close a lot more quickly, and he'll fall into you. He'll shift by bringing that back foot forward, and that can lead him to walking onto big shots too. And that can lead to him actually getting dropped. We've seen him hurt and dropped on multiple occasions. Well, we've seen him hurt on multiple occasions. We've seen him dropped a couple of times. And he gets up, and then he continues, and he wears you down. He breaks you down. It really is like facing a Jason from Halloween. You think you've got him, and he keeps coming back at you. So I believe he'll start to chop away at Marcus Browne. Now, if Marcus Browne starts to feel that pressure and starts to let go of his hands a little bit too much, the backhand in particular, he'll start to fall into that pocket. And when he falls into that pocket and he starts to exchange with Beterbiev, well, we've seen him get dropped by Jean-Pascal heavily, stumbling when he's getting up and stuff like that. Jean-Pascal, you can learn a lot from that particular fight, because he too is going to be, he too was the shorter guy who would come in and look to land big shots. Pascal's more sudden than Beterbiev, but he doesn't have the heavy-handedness, and he doesn't have the ability to place that sort of foot pressure that Beterbiev does. So Marcus Browne, if he starts to eat those right hands, if he starts to punch with Beterbiev rather than using a lot of feints and keeping it long, not punching when his feet are too close, not allowing himself to be able to constantly rotate and keep him at bay, there could be some serious damage caused by Beterbiev in the latter half of this fight. Now, Beterbiev did have some problems making weight as well. Now, that's something we're going to have to take into consideration, because if his part of the fight is going to be the latter half and he's been struggling to make weight, and like I said, Marcus Browne, when he does throw power shots, he does throw that nice uppercut to the solar plexus. If he starts to do that and he starts to use check right hooks to turn Beterbiev and keep him moving, you don't know if Beterbiev is going to gas. Marcus Browne's going to be a real threat to Beterbiev here. I'm just not sure he has the chin to see it through for 12 rounds. If he does, and Beterbiev's unable to really hurt him, I believe Marcus Browne's going to win this fight. In other words, for Beterbiev to win this fight, I believe he has to hurt Marcus Browne. Now, like I said, when you've got 16 wins, 16 knockouts and no losses, well, clearly you're going to back yourself to be able to hurt anybody, right? But you saw the Adam Danis fight. He got pulled out. Gvozdyk couldn't continue. He was shattered. He was exhausted. Now, of course, a lot of that is to do with the investment that Beterbiev was doing into the body, the pressure and so on and so forth, the physical element of roughing him up close. And a lot of these shots seem innocuous, like they've got nothing on them, and they're still having a real effect on the opponent. So I'm not undermining Beterbiev's power or his ability to hurt the opponent. But the point I'm making here is that this is not a guy who's got that Deontay Wilder type of punching power. He wears you down. If Marcus Browne can limit those moments where he's under pressure and he can survive those late rounds, he could build up a lead here and end up causing an upset. And who knows with Beterbiev, who has been hurt in the past, if he starts to get desperate and he starts to take these massive risks whereby that back leg comes over and he's falling square on, he could walk onto something big as well. Okay, so this is a real threat. I think Marcus Browne's a live underdog here, but I do believe that Beterbiev will have a little bit too much for him physically and in terms of power. When you saw Marcus Browne fight Shawnee Monahan, Monaghan was a guy who wasn't throwing back really, okay? He was walking into range without much upper body movement, and he was absorbing the best that Marcus Browne had to offer. And so despite the fact that Monaghan always fancied, he was 28-0 at the time, Monaghan, and he's got some power, he's got some pop there. Despite that, he wasn't able to bring that into play, right? Shawnee Monaghan wasn't able to what's the word I'm looking for? To impose his will and his weapons on Beterbiev. Sorry, on Marcus Browne. Beterbiev will have that ability against Marcus Browne. So it's a completely different proposition to him, even though you can sort of learn about what he might try to do there, as well as the Jean-Pascal fight. You could see how he operates against guys who perhaps are smaller, heavy-handed guys. Let me know what you think. How do you think this fight goes? Are you nervous for Beterbiev if you are a Beterbiev fan? If not, is it just because Marcus Browne was so badly hurt against Jean-Pascal? What if that was just one of those things where he just got caught with a big shot because he got lazy and then never really recovered from it? And so the punch resistance was always sort of off. What happens if he can take, in other words, Beterbiev's power? What happens if you see that Beterbiev, yeah, he's heavy-handed, but he's not smashing him to pieces and knocking him down? Can you see a way in which he outpoints Marcus Browne? Last comment I'll make is this. Beterbiev had this brilliant ability against Gvozdyk at times to force Gvozdyk into a position where he's not only shifting his weight beyond, he's shifting his weight beyond his back foot when he's retreating. When you're shifting your weight beyond your back foot, so your legs aren't beneath you, you're not moving your weight onto your back foot where your weight's beneath you and you can coil back and come with a counter. You've gone beyond your back foot. Now, when you go beyond that back foot, you are in retreat mode and you are not in a position to then plant your feet. And he was able to do that. And then if you're in that position against Beterbiev and he's got this forward momentum, well, all of a sudden you're going to start to see blunt force trauma, serious problems there. That did happen to Marcus Browne at points after he was hurt by Jean-Pascal. So if Jean-Pascal can get him shifting his weight beyond his back leg, leaning back, Marcus Browne could be in serious trouble. But as long as he's got his feet beneath him and he's operating in that slick manner where he's dictating the distance, he's going to be looking very good in my opinion against Beterbiev. But my pick is Beterbiev to win the fight by knockout, probably in the latter rounds, after round 8, I would say, in that sort of period, 8 to 12. I suspect Beterbiev will chop him down. Terrific fight though, one I'm really looking forward to. Let me know what you think, guys. Give me your opinions. Chat to you soon. Take care and God bless.